Good evening. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD, coming to you with another quality episode. And we're going to start off with the sad passing and tragic passing of professional boxer Maxim Dadashev. He died July 23rd, 2019. Died from injuries as a result of a fight that he had this past Friday night against Subriel Matthias in an IBF eliminator, which the winner of that fight was going to get a title shot. Maxim Dadashev was a Russian national champion in 2010 and 2012, where he won a bronze medal in the 130-pound weight class, as well as 2013, where he won a silver medal in the 141-pound weight class. He was an undefeated professional with 13 professional fights, 11 of them by knockout or TKO, was trained by James Buddy McGirt. In that fight, he was losing the fight, kind of getting dominated in the fight, but never quit, showed a true boxer's heart. And God bless Buddy McGirt, because Buddy McGirt saw that his young fighter was taking a little bit too much punishment in that fight and decided to stop the fight at the end of the 11th, going into the 12th round. Now, my little brother Wesley just sent me a video yesterday, and it was actually a rather sad video of Maxim Dadashev. He walks out of the ring. He had to be helped out of the ring. He needed help getting to the back, so he couldn't even walk on his own power getting to the back. Then you see a clip where he stops walking. All of a sudden, it looks like he begins to collapse. Then you see them bringing the stretcher out, where they put him on the stretcher and then stretcher him out of the arena. Very sad video to see. He survived by his wife and son. To his family, you all have my deepest condolences. And these are some of the reasons why I respect boxers so much, because these guys literally can give their life in the ring, and the pay is not that great for what they make. Yes, and I talked about this in my first episode, where you might have the big name stars who make the money later on in their careers, but the guys who are up and coming really don't see a lot of money, and they put their bodies through so much physical stress and abuse to achieve their goals, to feed their families, to entertain the fans. So I think we owe them a bit of thank you. We owe them a bit of gratitude for their sacrifice that they make in regards to their health and their well-being. So Maxim Dadashev, may you rest in power, and I can only hope that your family can continue with the healing process. Folks, one of the reasons why I decided to do this show, and I touched on this in my first episode, was my love of boxing. Now, this is a fighter who died as a result of injuries sustained in the ring, of injuries sustained from head trauma, from repeated punches to the head, and this is the inherent risk that comes in the world of professional boxing. I want to touch on one fight, a few fights I'm going to touch on. I'm going to go back to March 24th, 1962. Emil Griffith versus Bernardo and the Kid Perret. Now, what is tragic about that fight was Benny Perret was TKO'd, slumped in the ring, lost consciousness, and died 10 days later. And that fight has been a subject of plenty of documentaries. And what's funny about that fight, when I do my research on it, they said that being that a lot of people watched that fight, and the fact that this person died in the ring, collapsed in the ring and died 10 days later as a result of his injuries, boxing totally wasn't really televised again to the mainstream until the 1970s. So that's kind of saying a lot here. The fact that tended to turn people off from the sport of boxing until the 1970s, I kind of found that rather interesting in my facts. But there's some interesting things about that fight, whether the fight should have been stopped earlier, should the referee have stepped in and stopped the fight, should Benny the Kid Perret even been fighting, because he suffered a couple of losses and knockouts before that final fight. So was he already shop worn? And that's a term that's used in the boxing world of a fighter who his best days were behind him. He's not the same fighter, can't take punches well. So those are just some of the things that I think people forget, and I don't want to forget these guys because these guys have entertained, obviously, the people before me and the current crop of fighters. They definitely entertained myself as well as the older generation. There's another fighter I wanted to touch on. Remember this guy? Gerald G-Man McClellan. Now, Gerald McClellan was a middleweight from the early 1990s. And Gerald McClellan had 34 total fights, 31 wins, 29 knockouts, and 3 losses. Gerald McClellan was trained by the legendary Manuel Stewart, Kronk Jim. He was the WBC middleweight champion. And if you see the guy on the right, that's a guy by the name of Julian the Hawk Jackson. Now, Julian Jackson is considered one of the hardest punchers of all time. I'm talking about in the same category of an Ernie Shavers, same category of a Mike Tyson, same category of a George Foreman. This guy, Julian Jackson, was putting people to sleep. Gerald McClellan knocked him out in 5 rounds to win the WBC title, and again defended in a rematch and knocked him out in 1 round. Now, for some of you saying, okay, what's the big story with Gerald McClellan? Remember this guy. Yes, the great Roy Jones Jr. Now, Roy Jones Jr., just a quick about his career, and I'm going to do another podcast or show about Roy Jones Jr., is Roy Jones Jr. was brilliant throughout his amateur career, obviously we know his professional career, until he became older. What's significant about Gerald McClellan is he beat Roy Jones Jr. in the amateurs. So, and that's kind of significant because Roy Jones went to the Olympics after losing, or that particular tournament, to Gerald McClellan, rolled through the Olympics, and was at the end of the worst decision ever in Olympic boxing history. And Gerald McClellan beat Roy Jones as an amateur. So it was always stated that Gerald McClellan was at one point, or was on a crash course, to be a future opponent for Roy Jones, as he both came to the middleweight division, the super middleweight division, and the light heavyweight division, which is interesting because Gerald McClellan won the WBC title in 1993, held it to 1995. Roy Jones beat Bernard Hopkins for the IBF belt in 1993. And by the way, I just mentioned Bernard Hopkins. So that kind of would have been a good series of fights, even throwing James Toney, a good series of fights with Gerald McClellan in the early 1990s. The end of the final fight of Gerald McClellan's career came in London, England, in February 25th, 1995, against Nigel Benn. And what's sad about that is Gerald McClellan scored a knockdown in round number 1. The referee, I kind of questioned what the referee was doing, but he was kind of impeding Gerald McClellan's path to try to end the fight, and even Don King was going crazy at ringside. The ring doctor, Ferdy Pacheco, was going crazy at ringside, complaining about what the referee was doing. But Nigel Benn fought back. Gerald McClellan scored another knockdown. Again, I don't know what the referee was doing. Well, eventually, Nigel Benn came and knocked Gerald McClellan out, and people saw that as kind of a strange knockdown because Gerald McClellan kind of took knees and kind of went on the stool, and people always wondered, well, did he quit? Well, lo and behold, Gerald McClellan slumped back on the canvas, lost consciousness, was 11 days in a coma, and as a result of that fight, he is visually impaired, he's used a wheelchair, and he's probably, they say, 80% deaf. And for these guys, again, to give so much of their bodies, where at any point in time, any one punch, a series of punches, can either kill you or affect the way you live. And this is why I decided to do this show, to pay homage to these guys, to show my respect for these guys for putting their all out there. I mean, anytime they step in the ring to entertain us, they're putting their safety and well-being. So this is why I try not to insult fighters or tarnish a fighter's legacy. These guys are the true warriors. So this is something I definitely want to touch on with the injuries in boxing. But I did say in my very first episode, we're going to come with the hard-hitting opinions that's probably going to rub some people the wrong way. And right now, I'm getting ready to rub some people the wrong way. If I'm not mistaken, I said on my first episode that I respect defensive fighters. Unfortunately, the public, now I can say you all, I can even throw me into the equation, but I'm going to say you all. Remember, this is boring. This is considered boring. This is considered boring. This is considered running. This is considered not quite appeasing to the fans. This is considered not fan friendly. This is considered not worth the price of admission. And you see, defensive fighters have a long shelf life. But this is what the public wants to see. This is what the public will pay top dollar for. Because they claim that they want to see guys go toe-to-toe and bang for the knockout. And I swear that's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. Now, going back to one of those pictures with Robert Guerrero and Floyd Mayweather. Now, Robert Guerrero, tough fighter. I remember when watching that Floyd Mayweather fight, at the end of the action, when Floyd Mayweather was totally outschooling him, making a miss, embarrassing him, dancing circles around him, and quite frankly, tearing his ass up, his trainer, family, father said after the fight, "What happened? I thought we were going to go toe-to-toe." And I was kind of stunned by that, and you have people actually agreeing with that logic. I thought they were going to go toe-to-toe. So utilizing angles, utilizing footwork, utilizing head movement, those things are considered taboo now. Utilizing speed and reflexes is considered taboo. That's why boxing is called the sweet science, the art of hitting somebody without getting hit. And the public, and you hear all these sportscasters say the same garbage. I want to see two guys in there banging it out and going for the knockout and blah, 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 blah. These are people, in the words of one Roger Mayweather, don't know shit about boxing. Because that's not what the sport is about. The sport is about being able to hit and not get hit. And this is why I'm going on this program to really bring home the fact that boxing is about being hit and not getting hit, or hitting and not getting hit. And the fact that society at large frowns upon that, as well as the mainstream media, I feel is ridiculous. And I feel that people have the nerve to want to criticize a Floyd Mayweather because he decides to fight in a defensive shell. And you see, in 50-something fights, maybe he took a few punishment in a few fights. And the two fights I could think of that he took probably the most punishment in the first Jose Luis Castillo fight and in the Miguel Cotto fight. And what's ironic, after the Miguel Cotto fight, his father, Floyd Sr., became his head trainer, and Floyd Sr. was a more defensive fighter. And after that Miguel Cotto fight, fought guys Marco Maidana, Manny Pacquiao, Robert Guerrero, Canelo Alvarez, Andre Berto, and them guys barely could lay a glove on Floyd Mayweather. So again, it's about defense. So for young fighters out there, if I'm blessed to have children and they decide to want to go into boxing, they're going to learn defense first. They're definitely going to learn defense. So I am more about defense. Yes, I respect guys who go toe-to-toe. I respect guys who love to bang. And all that's well and dandy. But there's nothing wrong with defense. And I think the mainstream media needs to get away from that, because you have the mainstream media who really don't watch boxing. They only come around when it's those big fights, and they want to go out there on their shows and say, well, I love to see two guys going for the knockout, and anybody who doesn't go for the knockout, it's a boring fighter. No, if anything, that's the art of boxing. To me, there's nothing more elegant and graceful when you're standing in front of somebody who's trying to hit you and they're hitting the air, when you're rolling your shoulders, you're slipping, you're powering the punches. Or old school Winky Wright, keep your hands up and create a fortress where punches are not getting through. But, you see the punches come from one side, you slide your head to the outside. You do the shoulder roll. You roll and duck and slip. That's a beauty part, and that's called defense. So just want to touch on a little bit about defense. But again, I wanted to send my condolences to the family of Maxim Dadashev, and you all have my deepest condolences. And until the next time, take care.